Welcome to Basic Financial Literacy, a presentation by the Carter Community College's WIOA Youth Program. This presentation is designed to give basic information about budgeting, credit, and savings and investments. The topics we will discuss are understanding your expenses, budgeting basics, emergency funds, understanding credit, debt management, savings, investments, and goals. Let's take a look at how you evaluate your finances. The first step is to get a good understanding of your income. To do this, write down all your sources of income and the gross before taxes amounts. This might include wages, tips, child support, alimony, assistance from family members, assistance from public funds, and informal income such as childcare or service work. The next step is to track your spending for 1 month. This means all your spending. Write down where and what you spent, keeping receipts and organizing them into categories. Track your bills and groceries and any other spending, planned or unplanned. At the end of the month, total your spending and compare it to your income. Are you saving money? Are you paying down debts? How can you trim your spending to help meet your savings goals? Let's talk about the B word, budget. Most people get intimidated when thinking of creating a budget, but if you followed the steps in evaluating your finances and spending, then you are ready to make a budget. Again, the first step is listing all your monthly income. You can use a paper ledger, you can download free forms from the internet, or you can use Excel templates to assist you. List your monthly expenses next. List the needs first, then the wants. The purpose of a budget is to not only balance your income and spending, but to tell your money where you want it to go. You first designate money to those expenses that are essential: housing, food, utilities, medical, and transportation. Then you look at the wants. However, you have to build in your savings goals as well. If you are spending more than you are making, or you have debts, it is important to look at reviewing, cutting, and trimming your budget. If you overspend in one category, then you have to make up for it in another category. Again, the purpose is to designate every dollar of income to an expense category and make your money work for you. That doesn't mean you spend all your money. It means you set up savings goals and commit to those goals or pay down debt if you have debts. There are several ways to trim spending, such as using cash only, using the envelope method, and spending whereby you have envelopes for each category and budget amounts into those envelopes. Once the money is gone, it is gone. Other ways to save is to reduce debts, such as putting credit cards out of reach, having no spend days each week where you don't spend any money, and being diligent about tracking your finances and adjusting your budget. Again, finding budget templates or forms is simple with Excel and internet tools. This slide shows an example of a budget to review. When setting up your budget, it is important to keep in mind goals. That means when you budget for certain expenses, set up a goal as to what percentage of your income should or will go to that expense. In 2015, the following percentages are where most Americans budgeted their income: 25% on housing costs, which includes rent, mortgage payments, insurance premiums, and taxes. 20% toward transportation costs. These include car payments, bus and subway expenses, insurance premiums, taxes, and maintenance. 14% of their towards life insurance or retirement. This includes life insurance premiums, pension, or retirement contributions. 10% for groceries. This does not include eating out expenses. 10% for healthcare, such as premiums, medication, and copays. 10% for utilities, that is electricity, gas, internet, and water expenses. 8% for entertainment. This includes eating out, movies, concerts, getting your nails done or hair done, or streaming services such as Netflix or Hulu. This slide has some additional resources to help you with budgeting. They include Practical Money Skills, the Mint, mymoney.gov, and Khan Academy personal finance classes. Another great resource that can be found on Practical Money Skills includes a free downloadable Money Skills workbook. Highly encourage you to look at this workbook and see if it can help you with your budgeting and savings goals. Emergency funds. What are they and why are they important? An emergency fund is a stash of money that is set aside for surprise expenses such as medical bills, car repairs, or unplanned travel due to a family death or illness. You might ask yourself, how do I create an emergency fund? Start with a goal of $1,000. Then make a list of potential emergencies to guide your definition of an emergency. Then make a list of ways you can start putting money away, such as automatic transfers, funds from a second job, selling items, or making cuts to your budget. Lastly, utilize a high-yield savings account to help maximize your money. This is an account that has higher than average interest rates, but still allows you to access your money without steep penalties if you have an emergency. There are 3 things you should ask yourself before using your emergency fund. 1. Is this expense expected? Expected expenses should not be considered emergencies. Only unexpected expenses, such as job loss, emergency medical expenses, or unexpected car repair or an accident. Expected expenses like vacations, Christmas, and routine car maintenance should be factored into your monthly budget and savings goals. 2. Is it absolutely necessary? A need may include transportation to get to work or transportation due to a family crisis. Wants are not considered necessary uses of an emergency fund. These might include an upgrade on a car or a new phone upgrade. 3. Is it urgent? Again, emergency funds are for urgent needs. Urgent may include a broken AC in the summer or a broken refrigerator. Sales on clothes at your favorite store or sporting goods store are not considered urgent needs. Now we will take a look at credit. Credit allows you to buy something now and pay for it later. There are various types of credit. One of the most common is revolving credit. This is where you are given a maximum credit limit and you make at least minimum monthly payments. Credit cards are considered revolving credit. Charge cards are another form of credit whereby a specific store issues a card, but the balance must be paid off in full each month. These cards are not common anymore. Another form of credit is service credit. That is, you have a contract with a company for service such as a cell phone company, gyms, or internet or streaming services. Lastly, another common form of credit is installment credit, which includes being loaned a specific amount of money and you pay installments with interest over the life of the loan until it is paid off. Examples of this type of credit include mortgages, auto loans, and student loans. It is important to be responsible with credit. Ideally, credit cards should be used like debit cards. You should not purchase more than you are able to pay off in a month. Keep an eye on your spending and do your best to not let debt accumulate. Remember, credit is not free. It costs you money. Often you end up paying a great deal more for an item than if you had saved up and paid cash for that item due to the interest. Take a moment to review this table and see how much additional an item can cost by paying minimum payments over time. When applying for credit cards, be sure to choose wisely. Make sure you compare APRs, annual percentage rates, and know whether they are fixed or variable. Know the fees associated with your card, late fees, annual fees, and overdraft fees. Know your credit limit. Going over your credit limit can cause additional fees, changes your credit score, and makes higher payments. Know if there are grace periods on purchases before interest accrues. If so, try to pay off those purchases before interest accrues. Lastly, be sure to know if rewards are associated with your card. You may be able to use the rewards to reduce costs on things like travel, gas, or groceries. It is also important to know about credit scores and your credit report. Credit reports are a detailed history of all the credit cards and loans you have received. Credit reports will also often show red flags such as collection issues and overextension of credit. A report also shows how long you have had accounts, the amount of potential debt you could have, payment history, and credit balances. A credit score is a number derived from these various factors and tells lenders your risk potential. This graphic will help you understand what factors determine your credit score and the importance attributed to each of these factors when your score is calculated. This graphic shows you where your credit score falls in relation to how risky lenders may find you. Ideally, you want to be in the orange to red section if at all possible. You are entitled to at least one free credit report a year. There are 3 major credit agencies where you can order your credit report. It is important to request and review your credit report at least once a year to look for any discrepancies. Beyond lenders, there are other agencies or individuals that may be able to see or request your credit information. These are included on this slide. Another important reason to monitor your credit and make improvements if needed. If you find a mistake on your credit report, you must report it within 30 days of receiving your credit report with any supporting documentation you have. As an example, a few years ago, my husband and I moved and tried to set up our electricity with a local company. As part of their process, they ran a credit check and deemed us high risk and wanted to charge an exorbitant deposit to set up our service. When we disputed, we found out this was due to our credit report showing my husband had missed child support payments. This occurred when he took custody of his child and the payments were put on hold until they could be discontinued. However, this was not reported to the credit bureau. After much deliberation, providing court orders and receipts, the report was fixed and the deposit requirement was dropped. Diligence and good record keeping is important to remember. Let's talk about ways to manage or repair credit and debts. Some helpful tips are: pay your bills on time, mind your credit limits and do not overcharge. Whenever possible, pay off your monthly balances. When not possible, pay more than the minimum payment. Apply and open new lines of credit only when needed. Don't apply for too much credit. Even if you do not use your cards, remember your potential debt is factored into your credit score. Dispute inaccuracies on your credit report immediately. As stated before, review your credit report at least annually. If your credit card is lost or stolen, report it immediately. Let's talk about savings, retirement, and investments. Setting up savings goals are important at any age. The first step is to set up an emergency fund if you have not done so already. Early on, a realistic goal would be $1,000 for your emergency fund. Eventually, you should grow this fund to at least 6 months of your salary. You can set up a savings account and have a certain amount direct deposited with each paycheck. Some bank cards offer savings programs that allow you to round up your spending to put in savings. That is, if you spend $9.50, they will round up to 10 and the extra 50 cents will automatically be deposited into your savings account. Another great savings tool is to set up a specific savings fund, such as a holiday account or vacation accounts. You can even set up a savings account for a home down payment or a car down payment. Again, setting up an automatic deposit with each paycheck will help build these accounts by depositing the money before you have a chance to be tempted to spend it. When setting up savings accounts, be mindful of the interest you are earning, minimum balances required, and the fees associated. Shop around for the best deals. Understanding interest. Simple interest is calculated by multiplying the daily interest rate by the principal by the number of days that elapse between payments. Simple interest benefits consumers who pay their loans on time or early each month. Auto loans and short-term personal loans are usually simple interest loans. Compound interest is interest calculated on the initial principal, which also includes all of the accumulated interest of previous periods of a deposit or a loan. Compound interest is calculated by multiplying the initial principal amount by 1 plus the annual percentage rate raised to the number of compound periods minus 1. Sounds complicated. Too complicated for me. Interest can be compounded on any given frequency schedule, from continuous to daily to annually. When calculating compound interest, the number of compounding periods makes a significant difference. An easier way to look at this is to view this chart comparing simple and compound interest. When setting up savings goals, it is important to look for interest benefits that compound to help you earn more money. It's important to be knowledgeable about different types of investments. Owned investments are those in which you will own or own a portion of. These include stocks, mutual fund shares, real estate, personal business, or commodities and collectibles. The payout for these are usually in quarterly dividends, but profit cannot be guaranteed. Loaned investments are those where you loan a company or government money with a promise to repay the principal amount with interest. Examples include money market funds, government bonds, certificates of deposit, foreign bonds, and annuities, which are funds that pay out fixed stream of payments. Guaranteed payments of investments plus interest. Savings bonds are a type of investment that are secured by the government. Thus, they are safe investments but yield low return on the investment. There are two types, Series EE. An example is to buy a $50 bond for $25. Interest rates change every 6 months. There's no set date when it will mature. Most must be held for at least 12 months. The other type are Series I bonds, inflation bonds. You purchase for face value, there's a fixed interest rate and inflation calculation. You get both when the bond matures. You must hold the bond for at least 12 months. These are meant to be long-term investments. Certificate of deposits, or CDs, is a type of federally insured savings account that has a fixed interest rate and a fixed date of withdrawal, known as the maturity date. CDs also typically don't have monthly fees. Share certificates, which are the credit union version of CDs, are also low risk, as they're insured up to the same amount through the National Credit Union Administration. What are stocks, mutual funds, and commodities? Stocks are a security that represents ownership of a portion of a company, thus entitling the owner of the share or shares to a portion of the assets of the company. Mutual funds. These are investments that pool your money together with other investors to purchase shares for a collection of stocks, bonds, and other securities. Commodities are a basic good in commerce that is interchangeable with other goods of the same type. Why it's important to think about retirement early. Starting early allows you to grow your investment portfolio over time. Learning to control your finances young sets up a pattern for greater wealth in the future. Depending on how much you can save and invest, you may be able to retire early. Here are a few tips on getting you started with retirement planning. Take advantage of employer-offered options, especially when the employer will match a portion of your investment. Start a 401k plan and work with a financial planner. Lastly, review these resources for helpful sites when budgeting and goal setting for your future.